Got our Timmies, the car's looking pretty damn sweet. Got her all nice and warm in the shop. Okay, let's get it. Alright guys, so welcome back. This is going to be part 2 of the big turbo install on the RB20. So in the last video, we actually went over the installing of the turbocharger and the new intercooler piping and all that stuff. So let me just show you guys and we'll go over it again quick before we get started. That Honda hood mod. Alright guys, so in the last video what we did, so we've got a Greddy TD05 18G with a 10 centimeter housing on the hot side. We got a Kenugawa, if you say that correctly, wastegate, internally gated. So we have all new intercooler piping, so we have 2.5 inch from the turbo to the hot side of the intercooler, and then on the cold side we have 2.75 right into the throttle body. I also added this catch can setup, and we got a 3-inch 45-degree elbow for our MAF. So today we got some very crucial parts that we're going to be installing that are going to be key to making the RB20 run amazing. Okay guys, so we got 4 key components here that I'm just going to go over quickly, and then we're going to get them installed. So big turbo, we got more air, so what are we going to need? More fuel. So first thing I picked this up off Enjuku. It's a ISR fuel pressure regulator. So this is going to help us keep the fuel pressure where it needs to be when we're running more boost. And we also got the fuel rail adapter there, because you don't want to be relying on a 30-year-old fuel pressure regulator when you're pushing the limits of your engine. So next up, boys, if you've seen this box before, you know we got some injectors in here. So right here, here's our little flow data chart. Save that for the tuner. So as you can see, they got the little plug and play adapters on them right there, so they're ready to plug right into the stock RB20 harness. No wiring needed whatsoever. They are high impedance, so they will work with any RB ECU without the need to wire in a resistor pack, which is crucial for me because don't want to cut into my brand new Wiring Specialties harness. Anyways, these are 550cc injectors. They'll be more than enough for my power goals with the car, and they're brand new, so I'm excited. We're going to get those on, and they will complement the fuel pressure regulator nicely. Okay guys, so another absolutely key component to tuning your vehicle, we have a AEM AFR gauge right here. So this is pretty much going to be assisting in when we're getting the car tuned and just making sure we're running it at the right air fuel ratio. Don't want to run it too lean because that can cause knock and potentially blow your engine. So this will be crucial to making the car running perfectly. Okay guys, and this is the absolute best part. This is what I'm so excited for. A little bit of change. I don't know if I mentioned what ECU I was going to be running in the last video, but we went change of plans, I updated, and we got something new and a lot better to deal with. So check this out. So boys, I'm sure if you're watching this, you know what a Haltech ECU is. I picked up this Haltech, brand new. This is a Haltech Platinum Pro. It's a plug and play for the RB. So you can see right here. It says Nissan R32, R33. It will work with any RB series engine. We have a map. We have input and outputs for the ECU. This is a CAN bus connection. This is serial, so I can plug in my laptop and tune it, and we'll get into that later in the video or possibly another video. This is the plug and play style harness, so this will plug directly right into my factory harness, no extra wiring needed. So guys, with all this brand new hardware, I'm very confident that the car will be set to be good and reliable, and we will not have too many issues with it. So I'm super hyped on all this stuff. I can't wait to get it on. So just to clarify, the ECU, the Haltech, it supports MAP. So I'm gonna get the car tuned off a MAP tune, and I actually recently just learned about MAP because I've always come from cars with MAP. So for a MAP tune, it uses speed density, so it's taking a couple other sensors. So I had to add an air intake temperature sensor And then you also need a boost pressure sensor, so you can run a line straight from the intake manifold to the ECU, and the Haltech has an onboard 22 PSI map sensor, so that'll be good for what I'm going with. So the basic simplicity of it is, once we have a map, we can actually get rid of our map sensor because that will be no longer used. Right here, so I got this bung welded on already. This is for a GM style intake air temperature sensor. I literally just installed it, so it's not wired, so we're going to be doing that in the video today. Super easy, and then we'll set it up with one of the input and outputs on the ECU. So instead of using the MAF sensor, which it uses a combination of airflow and O2 sensor readings to make the engine run correctly, instead with a MAP it uses boost pressure, which is volume, and it uses intake air temperature and fuel. So that way the computer calculates at what RPM, at this temperature, at this boost, it tells it how much fuel to put into the cylinder, and it's much easier for tuning, and it can be a lot more reliable and easy to work with. Alright, so to get started, we're going to start with the first easiest two things, and that's going to be first the fuel pressure regulator, and then second the air fuel ratio gauge, because we're going to want to make sure those are working before we start messing around with the fuel tables and the injectors. Okay, so this is going to be pretty straightforward. All you have to do is take off the line from here and here and run that to here, so it's going to be run in series with that. I've already kind of mocked it up where I want it to go. It's going to sit right about there. Just going to screw it into the firewall. No biggie. Should be a nice spot for it. And then we'll get this set up how it needs to be. Second up, we're going to get the air fuel ratio gauge hooked up. So I actually already installed one, but it was faulty right out of the box, so we got a new one, and it's already all wired in, so theoretically we're just going to swap the sensor on the downpipe. I already got it wired all the way in here, right into the dash. But the problem is it's not actually reading the sensor. Not sure if it was a sensor or a gauge error, so I just went ahead and got a new one. So we're just going to take the gauge and sensor out and use the same wiring and put the new gauge and sensor in. So that'll be an easy install. Hey yo, so some of you guys are probably going to be pretty mad about this, but honestly I don't really care because it's my car, so it's not yours, don't worry about it. But I'm going to be self-tapping this into the firewall, and yeah, that's that. Alrighty, so that's how she's gonna be sitting in there. Looks pretty cool, decent. Alright, let's run some fuel lines. Alright, so next up is our little fuel pressure regulator. That's gonna come off. Okay guys, so those lines are all hose clamped up. The vacuum line for my fuel pressure regulator is like a little bit stretched right now because I didn't bring any spare hose from home, didn't think I would need it. It is still on there, but I am gonna get a new hose and replace that in the future, but it'll be good for now for our testing purposes. Okay guys, so this is all installed. We got our delete there, running a new line up under there, intake, outtake, vacuum line, everything's hooked up, all good, ready to go. So we'll fire it up, make sure it is set properly. So we should be around 40 psi rail pressure at idle. This is a rising rate fuel pressure regulator, so 1 pound of boost, it raises it 1 psi. So if we're running 20 pounds of boost, 60 pounds of fuel pressure. Simple as that. Okay guys, so this was super simple. I've actually never even set these up before. All I had to do is loosen this locking nut on the top, and then we have a 4mm Allen key in here. Turn it clockwise, base fuel pressure goes up. So we're gonna turn it right to 40 psi, stock rail pressure, and then tighten this down so we're not getting any adjustment, and boom, let's start it up and see what it's at. Okay guys, so we started it up at idle. It has dropped down a little bit, so we're gonna adjust it so that it's at 40 while idling. Perfect. All right, boys, so she is running good. Our fuel pressure regulator is working how it should. Just put my camera on charge, and we got the Afr gauge hooked up. So she is all hooked up now. Don't know how well you can see on camera. It is reading pretty high for idle. I'd assume that's because it's never been tuned with all these bolt-ons, but not 100% sure. Alrighty boys, so now it is time to get started on the ECU before the injectors. So the ECU is plug and play. We have to change a couple wires since it's meant for any RB20, 26, 20. It says right here in the manual we have to switch injector number 4 and 6. Let's dive into some nastiness right here. So we got a little jumper harness there. All I'm gonna do is look at the pinout and swap the 2 pins. Then we're gonna plug the ECU, power it up, and connect it to the laptop. Damn, that Haltech looks good. Except for that wiring, that's kind of a mess. But anyways, guys, so all I did was, you can see those 2 little crimps there. I swapped the 2 wires like it said in the manual. So, damn, that shit looks good. Anyways, so now the ECU is ready to be powered up. I got my laptop here. I got the software all downloaded, so we're gonna start this up and just go over it before we actually fire up the car. Okay, so because this ECU is gonna be running a map, we gotta hook up the air temperature sensor and get that set up first. So as you guys saw, I had this little temp sensor welded on here. So this, I actually just made this little harness. So it's a 2-wire temp sensor, right? So the Haltech actually came with an auxiliary harness. It comes with these little pins, and it plugs in to the back right here. So I already pinned that, wired that up, ran it out there. Oh yeah, so the 3 things the map is going to be using is the throttle position, the air temperature, and map, which is the boost pressure. Now there's a couple ways to do this, but I'm doing it so that this is going to be an input to the ECU. That way it's easier. We'll be ditching the MAF. So guys, I was just messing around. Took me a little while to get connected to this, but we'll wait to focus. So guys, this is the Haltech software. So I'm gonna go ahead and figure out all this stuff on my own off camera, just because it's gonna take me a couple hours to get everything set up before it's actually ready to fire up, get everything calibrated and whatnot. But it is just amazing, the options that you're provided with. I've never even dealt with a standalone before, but this just has so much stuff, it's almost overwhelming. But I'm not worried. We'll get it figured out and we'll get the car running amazing. So we're just gonna leave that alone for now, and we'll get back to that later. All right, so our air temp sensor is all wired up, ready to go. So we are gonna have to delete the MAF, but I don't have a filter that is a 3-inch to go right on there. So I think I'm gonna leave the MAF on there and just unplug it. It might be a tiny bit of a restriction, nothing crazy, until my new filter comes in. Okay guys, I want to give you a little rundown of what I did to get this to where it was. So basically I went into here, I went open, and then I uploaded the RB20 base map. Once I had this actually set up, I changed the injector size to 270. We're going to get it running before we install the bigger injectors. So here's our base map. You got all your kind of corrections and trims and all that stuff. I'm not going to deal with any of that. I'm going to leave that for the tuners because I don't really understand that and don't want to blow up my car. anyways, so in the main setup here, we went to basic. Model. I set the tuning method to volumetric efficiency, which is map. Our fuel load source is throttle position sensor. Ignition load is map sensor. So then engine capacity. So I set that because this is a 2-liter engine. Blah blah blah. Just some specs and stuff there that I had to set. So here I turned off both MAF sensors as sources. Turned off the air temperature sensor because that's only for RB26. Down here, so on that auxiliary harness, I wired in the air temperature sensor as input number 2. Number 1, I am leaving for a map sensor if I want to run more boost in the future. So that is on, got it calibrated. It is set as a pull-up resistor type. That's what a 2-wire temperature sensor is. Here, so onboard pressure sensor, so this is the one on the Haltech that is built in. That's set to manifold pressure sensor 1, which I have it set as the primary map sensor here. So here is a lot more stuff, like you have your decel cut, rev limiter, transient throttle, knock control, all that kind of stuff, which I'm not really going to get too far into right now. But yeah, I just kind of want to show you guys what I did to get this basically set up where it needs to be. Anyways, yeah guys, once we install the bigger injectors, I'm going to show you how we're going to adjust the fuel table to compensate for that. But yeah, as you can see here, we have our map sensor. So right now it's reading 0 because it's not hooked up and the engine is off. Here's our throttle position sensor. Here's our coolant temperature sensor. It's at 35 degrees Celsius. We were running the engine earlier, and our air temperature sensor is about 19 to 20 degrees Celsius, which is the temperature of inside the shop here, so that is about correct. Alright guys, so I actually just went ahead and took the fuel rail off. Don't know if you could tell in the other clips, but it was actually super chipped up, so I'm throwing some paint on there. Let me show you quick. So we just hit the fuel rail and the new regulator quick with some matte black paint just to clean it up a little bit, you know. So actually I take back what I said earlier. We are going to install the 550s before we start it up because I figured out some stuff with the software. I don't think it's going to be an issue. But with that being said, I don't have vacuum hose, so I can't even get this thing started up. So I'm going to run back home, pick up some vacuum hose and a couple things, and then we'll take back with this tomorrow morning. Alright, let's get right back into it. So here's our fuel rail with its quick little paint job on it. Here are the stock injectors that I pulled out, so also went and got my roll of hose, so we're going to run this straight from the intake manifold to the ECU. Alright boys, so now we're going to toss the new injectors onto the fuel rail. So here are the old injectors, they're kind of fatties, you know. These are the new ones. Works 550s, beautiful. They have these little adapter clips, so they plug right into the RB20 plug. And yeah, they come with a little bit of this super lube. We're going to put them on both the O-rings there, and then this rail will be ready to go. Alrighty boys, got the injectors all on there. I'm digging the black on black. Nice. Alright, so our fuel rail new setup is ready to be installed. We're going to toss her in, put some super lube on the O-rings that seat in the intake manifold, so she's ready to go. Alright, sweet you guys, we got the fuel lines back on, all the injectors are clipped on, the idle air control valves back on and hooked up. I also did run the line for the map sensor on the ECU, and I rerouted the line for the fuel pressure regulator. Yeah, so that vacuum line from the intake manifold goes right into the ECU, so we're good. So the car is about ready to fire up, so I'm gonna get onto the ECU add the injectors, do a little changes here and there, and then she should be ready for a first start. Alright boys, big update from last time. So I messed around with the Haltech. I could not get the car started whatsoever. Would not fire up, wouldn't sputter, wouldn't backfire, nothing. It was not even trying to. So I cranked and cranked and cranked, and this thing just would not start. So I'm gonna go over what happened. And so basically, I did end up getting the car to start, and we're gonna show you that in just a second. So I didn't have the settings right on the Haltech. I ended up actually calling Haltech, and they remotely logged into my computer and they changed something with the ignition timing, and we finally got it to fire up. So let's start it up just so you guys can see what's going on. So guys, the car is running, it idles. So right now the car idles. This is just a base map. The guy from Haltech helped me get it set up. It doesn't want to rev or really drive. This is pretty much just, and see, it shut off. So basically the base map kind of sucks, but it's only meant to get the car to the tuners. So I mean, I'm going to be tossing the car on the trailer and taking it to the tuners to get everything dialed in and set. Alright boys, so that's going to be the end of part 2 of the big turbo install. Got our injectors, our fuel pressure regulator, our Haltech, our Afr gauge. So everything is ready so I can drop it off at the tuners and he can work his magic, and hopefully we can make some pretty good numbers from this setup. So anyways guys, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for part 3 when you drop the car off, and hopefully we'll get some good numbers out of this thing. Peace.